Second, everybody. Guess what? You have to say that all over again.
Do you remember what I said?
Yeah.
No, again, with the first 15 minutes of the meeting, which begins at 6:30, we have the open podium session where anyone who's either in the room or virtually can address the board. 3 to 5 minutes, sort of like a public hearing, but it's not. And if there's anything that you want to talk about regarding town business, that's what we're here to listen about. So if anyone is there, then raise your hand. I see a hand up. It's a hand. It's not raised.
I don't see anything.
All right. And no one here. All right. Well, there's 15 minutes. All right. So we'll move along to item 4, which is approval of the minutes of July 28th.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of 7/28 as slightly amended. And I'll second that.
Any other discussions or slight amendments? Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. And we next have the abstract, item number 5.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 15 in the amount of $375,642.79. And I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Excellent. Next on the item is item number 6. And tonight we have Terry Brown and his team to discuss the municipal building feasibility study update. I did send out to all of you, I hope you got it, the feasibility study that we approved back in 2019 for the Miller engineering firm it was phase 2 and 3. And so we've been doing a lot of work on that over the last 3 years, actually more like 4. But we're at the point now where I think it's time that we give a good presentation of where we are, where we came from, and where we are up to date, Terry. So
Chad's going to lead us off.
Oh, Chad, okay, Chad, I'm sorry. Chad,
Podium.
yeah, that's easier for you. Chad's starting us out, sorry about that. And you can, of course, introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Chad Rogers, Architects. I can share my screen.
Yeah.
Talk to the commission.
Towards
To the
beginning.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, well.
Hey, something works tonight.
Look at that.
Cross our fingers, it keeps it. Slideshow. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to take less than 10 minutes. I wanted to give a brief synopsis of what we've done to date. As mentioned, we've got 2 phases of studies that have been completed to date, starting back in 17-18 and then continuing 19 to early 20. I want to guide you through that, what it's been done today. The purpose of the study was to analyze the space needs and staff needs of the courts, the town offices, and the police to be combined potentially into a new municipal building. So we started that process off by talking to all of those departments, gaining information on current space uses, maybe things that are lacking or where we have too much, what needs to change, what would be better. We call that the space program. So we developed that list of spaces, everything needed from those 3 main departments. We also toured some other facilities that have done something similar recently, so we got some good feedback on things that work or don't work. And we toured the existing spaces here as well to identify some issues or things where improvement is required. That, as I said, includes the police department, which, as most of you all know, is in the Manlius Elementary. Not necessarily originally designed as a police department, so it has some issues that will be corrected in the future. So that part of this report, this is an abbreviated version of the report, identified some of those key issues and needs. See a few photos here that are indicative of that. Same thing with courts. Big kind of issue coming out of the court review was safety. judge, those attending from the public, those there for court, separated, safe, and flowing in and out, as well as storage issues. Town offices generally have enough square footage. It's just looking at how do we make that more efficient and usable for how this is done today going in the future. So that space program effort was really the foundation for starting to look at some concepts. And we did a lot of analysis, but really came down to a concept that looked like a shared main lobby, various entrances, exits for the various components, and maintaining the needs of those three main departments. So before identifying potential sites, we did some sort of, let's call it generic layout to help inform what kind of site we're looking at, how much space do we need, how much parking, what's the general footprint of the building based on that early foundational work of space programming. So we did a kind of split level building, which this would illustrate. We did a 2-story with not knowing exactly what the components of the future site might be, characteristics of the future site. So you see those here. And these would obviously be a basis for more detailed design going forward. Following that, once we knew kind of what we were looking for, we had a lot of discussions on potential sites. So from literally looking at by size in town of sites and then trying to zero in on, all right, what would be centrally located. It's one of the main challenges of the police department now is it's not centrally located, so response times can vary to the northern part of the town. And zeroed in on some sites. And that kind of finished phase 1. And then picking back up in the second portion of the study was looking at some specific sites. First one that was looked at was the town landfill. The benefit there is that it's already owned. There's not an acquisition cost. However, as you can imagine, there are some challenges with it's either landfill area or it's wetland area in that whole block. So we did some test fits there. We actually looked at 2 sites. First one was in the wetland area. Lots of space, however, challenges with wetland and a lot of cost for the wetland. It would have to have been recreated elsewhere in order to affect it, which not necessarily the most sustainable option. The other side, at the old entrance, the old landfill, had some possibility, but also involved wetland and involved challenges with building adjacent to and on top of the portion of land. We looked here, current property, pretty quickly realized that you can see on this image, the dark dash line is the property line. It's tight, right? Basically using almost the entire site now, exception of some of the yard. So it didn't meet the parking criteria and would have to have been expanded to accommodate police and some of the expanded courts. So that was fairly quickly. It's a good possibility. We looked at a site at Northbrook. We called it a lumber site. I don't think it was for sale at the time, but again, it was identified as a possible place where the program would fit and also centrally located. But we're really where we ended up as we think the most preferable of the options that were known was the Fietta property, also Northbrook Suite. It is a former quarry, so it has a couple of quarry ponds in it, a lot of space, and I think it's the best option of those reviewed. This would be about a 7-acre parcel adjacent to one of the ponds. It would house the structure, has the parking needed, and it would allow for safety, ingress and egress for the police and the public, and it's very, very nicely centrally located. We did just a real quick conceptual rendering. Only thing for certain with this design is it will change going forward because it's there's definitely some site analysis and other things that will affect this, but we want to get something on paper just to get without a lot of feedback. Like I said, it will certainly change. And then an aerial view of the property, sort of in the center between the ponds, so that little white roof is would be approximately the site. It's proposed. And as you can see, is in close proximity, may allow for connection to the Erie Canal Trail, which it's right here, that's right on the page. Well, as I said, being centrally located. So Terry's going to talk just for the last slide on some of what's happened since we ended that.
Don't go too far for a second.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
I won't.
But, good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Chad.
It's been a long period of time trying to come to a conclusion. Granted, this building might fit, but last year, August 6th, we met the town board, one to do it all together. But, town board members, but first I was, but the problem was we didn't have control. So they were for sale or a reasonable price. But Sarah challenged us in that meeting, Sarah, that why not the site? So we took it on as a challenge. So over the past year, after an incredible amount of work by a number of people, we finally had the opportunity in town to develop that site, not just for this building, but to really look at their long-term development. But the other thing, just a couple of the things that are really pretty exciting, and I'm really excited about what this could be, and I've lived here for 47 years in the town. This can be a big deal. We go along with the community action plan we put together, some of the bullets that I want to recognize that we developed. But certainly, at the time, we didn't know if it was for sale, we didn't know what the price was, we didn't know something by. But we worked through all those issues. So now it is an option for the town to consider. But just think of the site's attributes. We talk about here's a larger footprint, so we can do a lot more with renewable energy. Waste technology to achieve a LEED certified building, that's an energy building. Potential tie-ins with feeder path, trail, or your canal, so you can locate it, easy access to the community. But then if you go down into the comprehensive plan, some of the things that I picked up, amenities for seniors that are centrally located, sports redevelopment of vacant properties that is vacant, develop more public space there, and certainly will set an example of leadership and sustainable building practice. So that's where we are. That Chad and the work is really done at this point in time. I want everybody to get really excited about the developers that's going to come in and offer the vision for the site. But it's just the first step. Ultimately, in talking to the developer, it will be a community vision and development to hit some of those key points that I've seen already in the plan. So weeks to get on. So with that, Jen and I thank you. We're just done. So Paul, we appreciate those patience, but good things take a while. Easy. You got it done at least to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Chad. Okay, that's it.
So on that subject, what are the next steps? Where does it go from here?
Yeah, Terry, Kayla has a question regarding, and I know we have a lot of steps to go, but what's the next step we're looking at? I know you have more detailed information that you wanted
Well,
to.
really, this will shift over to the development.
Okay.
At that point in time. So I can go into all kinds of details of what I think, how it would flow.
Yeah.
But the developer needs to come in and present his vision.
Oh, okay.
And then really start the discussions about going back in the comprehensive plan,
Yep.
how this is going to fit.
All right.
So we do have, a developer, let's say this, I mean, now is a perfect time. Because there's going to be a lot of money.
Yeah.
For infrastructure. Cost is always important. But we'll work through those issues, but it's going to take a team, I can see a committee, it's going to work on the design of the building, citizens and board members, representatives. This is going to be unbelievable. Where do you have two lakes in your community that you can actually develop and make it an asset?
So the next step would be a presentation by the developer,
Yes.
which you worked with them to prepare that, to
Yeah,
present
we'll
to the
get
board.
back,
Okay,
to get him, hopefully it's gonna be, your first meeting in September.
okay. Heather, we get.
Yeah, quick question. Terry, what were the big chunks of action, the big categories of action from August 20th or August 2020 through now?
Terry, do you want to come back up to the podium? so John-
Yeah.
Yeah, Heather's already getting ready
He's
to
trying to
go.
turn
I'm trying to get under it.
I mean, I know we came
The
together.
Irish
Yeah.
goodbye.
I know we came together to talk about, sort of our vision and the things that you mentioned in there. But what were the big categories of things? It was, Yeah.
We had to have the opportunity to develop that site, which meant we had to have an option agreement to purchase the site. It took a year.
There
And
was
so-
a negotiation, it's basically.
Negotiations, a lot of work.
so the developer, we're talking about, just to highlight, we're talking about a private developer wanting to create a public building, a space that can be used and leased by the public.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of details. into
Yeah,
that.
more than that.
That's a
I
good
understand.
summary of
But that's
private-
that's what we can anticipate.
Isn't this zoned R1?
There's about three different.
It's zoned out different
Zones,
parts of it.
zones, yeah.
R1 would fit the.
I imagine they would request a zone.
Just
Yeah.
saying, that's not.
What if we like voted no on this?
Actually, a municipal building is, it's not subject to zoning.
Okay.
So,
The government always makes rules that they don't have.
Yeah,
Right.
it's so funny.
Let's start thinking about your vision.
Right.
Oh, it wouldn't be a
Yeah,
municipal
because-
building, it would be a private building.
well, that's ultimately what will be presented to this board. Yes, there will be right now that land is purchased by, or is an option by a private developer. And one of the components of that private development might be a public building, the town police. Then there would be other component, there would be a multi-use type plan, with a public building, residential, commercial, all different types of things.
So you start
That's my
thinking about
understanding.
all those issues you wanted, because you go back in history related to that site, and what's before, what was in the past, and what happened, didn't happen. Now you have an opportunity to do something special. Start thinking about what that site could be in total. There's some exciting things. I think you're going to be excited when you hear your vision. But again, I want to emphasize it's going to be a shared vision. It's got to be a shared vision.
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Or Terry knows he can handle the hot seat.
We're open door.
Yeah,
I know,
that-
right?
as soon
Do the
as you-
straight line.
Every time we look at him, he's like halfway there.
What are a couple of examples, or just one example that stand out that we could do a little bit of our own homework on? What are some examples of the public-private partnership collaborations that you find interesting?
Well, when I was at
I did not set this up ahead of time, I
All right.
promise you.
when I was at Syracuse University, we developed a paper on public-private partnerships, which we actually published. There's a lot of data, so I'll make my own law, and we have a copy of that. But
I'd be happy to read that.
explains the benefits of that. And again, there's a debate, there's a lot of work that has to be done. Defining it in students was a public-private partnership will give you a lower cost, better quality. You eliminate a lot of the, I'll say, contest between the contractor and the typical contract scenario. And that paper was so good, it was cited by the governor of New Jersey when he passed the public-private partnership law. And now Syracuse University has a public-private partnership institute, something like that over the next. So there's a
Thank
lot of information, again, a lot of education, a lot of discussion, but now it's just get excited, start thinking about your vision. So when you talk to the developer comes in, you can start with that.
Is it, this might be too in the weeds, you can certainly tell me that we can talk about this later, but one of the things I would want to make sure that we included is prevailing wage. We wouldn't want to necessarily skirt around that just because it's got a private element to it.
No, you can, so in the contract, we can take care of it.
Okay.
I mean, if you want the prevailing wage, that's fine. If you want to have a project labor agreement, you probably can put that in there. You know, you got to analyze it, rate additional classes or additional classes. But with the contract is made, if it's reasonable, then we can address all those issues to satisfy everybody's concern.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You can go over
Enjoy the rest of
I
your
don't want to
day.
get in trouble.
there. And
Thanks, everyone.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, not to get too far ahead, but if there's a traffic light, we could take a left out of Coles now, so. Because that's where it would be, in conjunction. So, thank you very much. That was, thank you for all that.
Oh, I finally got what you were saying. I was like, take a left out
Out
of.
of Coles, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
you
across-
sit there forever.
Oh, well, I usually cut up there. Anyway. You didn't hear that, chief. All right, so that was good. That was very good.
Yeah, it's interesting.
All right, next we have Dan Kane. I think you're hiding in the back there, Dan. Come on up. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself to you. But you can do that.
How you doing?
Good. Now, you saw they were 10 minutes, right? So
What's that?
you saw they were 10 minutes,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've seen most of this.
Did that right. It was like school.
Yeah, school.
I
It does
promise.
feel like school.
Yeah,
Like
it's
take
not
one and pass it down type of vibe.
I have studied this. Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you too, yeah,
Thank you so much for coming.
absolutely.
So Dania, just introduce yourself and you're here, what you're going to be speaking on. Normally, this is of course for the employees' benefit.
Yeah.
It's not really a public thing for residents, but we thought it was important that we had, another group, another opportunity for someone to speak on the 457. We've had other, current ones spoke and over generally all of them.
Right.
But now we can have you speak on the direct one, which is the New York State Deferred Compensation Plan.
Sure.
So you're on. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks everybody for having me. My name's Dan Kane, I'm the account rep in the area for the deferred compensation plan. Talked to Caitlin a couple of weeks ago now, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and she asked me to go and present the information on the New York State's plan to the town. So as you guys are aware, the town went out for an RFP earlier this year. March-ish, I think.
Yeah.
And we responded to that as the New York State's deferred compensation. And I spoke to Caitlin a few weeks ago, and she invited me in to talk to you today about the program and how it would benefit the employees of the town. So just kind of a background of the New York State plan. This plan was started in '85. It was made available to all of the state agencies in New York. So we work with every state agency, corrections, state police, every agency in the state of New York. They also made it available to any local municipalities. So any towns, villages, counties, cities, even school districts have the ability to adopt the program and make it available to their employees as well. So we have roughly $32 billion in assets in the plan and over 250,000 participants across the state. So it makes us the largest deferred compensation plan in the country. And that's a good thing. We'll talk a little bit about the fee structure and how we work that. And that's a good thing for the participants of the plan. We spread the cost out over every single participant that's in the program to pay for those costs. Myself, anybody that any of the employees or participants who come in contact with, we work for Nationwide Financial. We administer the state's plan for them. So the way they've set this up is they contract with Nationwide, who's the plan administrator, the lawyers, the accountants, with everybody, the investment firm that helps us choose the funds. And we're all salaried employees. We do not get paid a commission based off of balances or how much somebody's contributing to the plan. So again, that kind of keeps the costs low for the participants.
How many participants did you say that there are?
250,000, probably more now, but that was the last number that I heard. And about 32 billion in assets. Just to compare that, state of California's deferred comp has roughly 16 billion in assets. So this is a huge program. That's huge. It's run by a 3-member board. They're appointed by the governor, the assembly, and the Senate, state Senate. They make the decisions on this plan. And we have a couple of state employees in Albany a director that works for the program as well. But most of the people, again, that anybody would come in contact with, we're nationwide employees. Right? Couple of things as far as the town is concerned. The town can adopt this program at any time. So you've gone out for an RFP, but you can always adopt the New York State plan. There's an adoption process. There's a resolution that would have to be passed. And then a few, administrative things that we would need to know. And then the town can come on board with this plan anytime they'd like to. There is no contract with the state of New York plan. So the town can leave anytime they'd like to as well. So if the town decides to come on board and adopt the program, there's no contract, you no longer have to do an RFP. That process goes away. The state of New York takes over the fiduciary responsibility of the plan as well, which right now falls on the town. So choosing the investment options, I don't know if you guys offer loans or not, all that stuff that you would normally have to take care of, the state does that. Auditing the plan, the state does that as well. Okay, and then there's no cost to the town either. So there's no cost for you to adopt the plan, and the costs of the plan are basically picked up by the participants in the program. So any employee that decides to enroll, they would pay the fees and the plan would charge them and spread that cost across the whole state of New York. We'll get into that. The participant fees are, I've been in this industry for a long time. I think very, very minimal compared to a lot of plans out there. We charge, there's really two types of fees in most retirement plans. One of them is an asset-based fee or an administrative charge, and we have that as well. And then the other one is the investments that the employees are in. They're called expense ratios. That's what each fund charges you to be in their account. And our administrative charges are $20 a year for every participant that's in the plan. And then there's an asset-based fee of 3 basis points for every participant as well. That equals out to $3 for every $10,000 in assets that they have. However, we cap that fee at $200,000. So if a participant has more than $200,000, we won't charge them past that. So the minimum fee somebody will pay is $20 a year. The maximum asset-based fee would be $80 a year. So that's significant savings for a lot of people. Just to compare that with somebody who was being charged a 0.5%, they're paying $1,000 a year versus $80, and that's money that's not in their pocket. So.
And can you just share with everyone here what a basis point is? And the event that they might not know.
Yeah, basis point is a percentage. So basically, if you were to do the math, that math I gave you of $3 for every 10,000, 3 basis points is 0.0003%.
Yeah.
So you would, that's, you did your calculation.
Still didn't seem right when I kept doing that.
What's that?
It didn't seem right every time. Oh, wow, that's low.
Yeah, I mean, and then that's, and again, they can do that because of the way they've set this plan up. It's set up as a benefit for the employees of the state. The state's budget for this plan is right on their website. They show you where every dollar goes. Nationwide gets paid, the lawyers, the accountants, the investment advisor. It shows you where every dollar goes. I think, actually, I'm not sure exactly what page it is. There's a page on here that shows how they've actually lowered the fee over time.
Yeah, I did. That's a
this one.
spreadsheet there.
Yeah, I mean, they started.
That's this one.
Used to be 8, basis 8.
Yeah, and it was,
Yeah, the fee's actually gone
the
down.
max fee was 100, I think 180
Yep.
per year.
Mhm.
It's down to 80 at this point. So what they try to do is, if they don't, they're not going to just take excess money if they don't need to. They cover their costs, and that's it. If they can lower it, they'll lower it. If they need to bring it up, they'll bring it up to help cover the costs, because they have to have some leeway on expenses as well. So that's a big component of this program. And again, the investment options as well, handed out booklets to everybody, and in the very back of that booklet is this little sheet of paper here.
Yeah.
You go on the back page, it's going to look like this. This is the list of all of our investment options as well, and the state is transparent with what the fees are. They're going to list everything on this piece of paper. Every quarter, you're going to get this, and it's on the website as well. So a little bit of a comparison of what we currently have in this program. And, again, it's being part of a bigger plan. They have what are called breakpoints on a lot of these mutual funds. They will give us the lowest possible fee that they have because there's billions of dollars there. So they can lower it. Make it pretty fair for everybody. So one example on that is our targeted retirement funds. They charge 0.34%, and we charge 0.34% for the employees. If you went directly through T. Rowe Price to buy that fund, they're going to charge you like 0.74%.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can see it doesn't sound like a lot, but over time, you're paying those fees every year in your mutual funds. It's a lot of money that adds up. So
Dan, good question on
Yeah.
the funds. I've had a chance to look at them. They're, they're competitive, they're good.
Yeah.
I know that many of the investment companies, or the companies that set these up, if there's one manager becomes out of what he's supposed to be doing, out of that, style box, so to speak.
Sure.
Who addresses that, and how are we notified? Is that where you would get a hold of myself or the town manager to discuss that?
So that's done on a statewide basis.
Oh.
We have contracts with every single one of these funds.
Mhm.
So Fidelity, for example, we'll sign a contract, the state will sign a contract with them, and they'll bid mutual funds as well. So they'll go out for an RFP on some of the funds if they decide they need to do that. So we've eliminated funds in the past that have either been lagged in performance or, like you said, changed their style.
Yeah.
We had a small cap fund a few years ago that kind of completely went off what they said they were going to do, and we said, okay, or the board said, okay, this is not what we kind of signed up for. We're gonna make a change, and we'll notify all the participants of that. It's not something that you guys would have to do as a town. We would send out a notification to everyone. It's in our newsletter. If somebody has that fund, we'll notify them and tell them X fund is going to be moved over to Y fund. You can make a change ahead of time if you'd like. This is going to be the new option. It's going to be similar to what you had, but here's the reasons why we're doing it. So the state kind of takes control over all that.
How about yourself? I know that, I've been in that position before where, there's a salary, but you get, it's investing.
Yeah.
But there's also, it might be different. There's also quotas that, I had to meet, or there was some incentives there.
Yeah.
Do you have quotas that you have to reach in order to
Yeah, we do.
keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have goals like anybody
Okay.
else. We have to, one of our goals is bringing on new employers. So,
Right.
and we bring on 60 to 70 new ones a year
Oh, all
throughout
right.
the whole state. And that's small towns and villages that don't have anything set up yet, all the way to towns like yourselves that convert over, other plants. We recently converted the city of Syracuse, Portland County, Tompkins County, Binghamton, Broome County, Cayuga County, Lewis County. That's the ones I've worked on. I can't remember all. That's over the last few years.
So is Nationwide the custodian basically in
Yeah.
this? And how long has that been happening? How long have they been custodian?
Nationwide has been the administrator since 2003.
Okay.
Yep, so we have a contract with the state as well. So the one thing about this plan is that Nationwide runs the plan, but it's not a nationwide sales job. You're not
Yes.
gonna see Nationwide
Yeah,
products.
it's multi-managed.
Yeah, it's I don't sell anything with Nationwide. We just handle the administration of this program. And we have a contract with the state as well. They go out for RFP, just like you guys would for a new manager. If they decide to do that, we have a contract for 2023. If they decided they no longer wanted Nationwide as the administrator and they brought on somebody new, really nothing would change with this. It would just be behind the scenes. And they try to keep it that way on purpose. They don't want you, they want everything to kind of flow, pretty. I guess.
Can I ask a couple
So,
questions?
yeah.
So, two questions.
Sure.
You mentioned that you got all these new municipalities, 60 to 70 coming out a year. How many have you lost over the last however many years?
So since 1985, we have only lost one. So almost everyone's said, obviously almost everyone's said. We have 2,200. across the state, plus all the state agencies. So we've had one leave in 30 years.
And as you said, there's no, never mind. I forgot what I was gonna say.
And it's, so it's interesting, so the state is going out to bid, which is, now that I'm coming to understand this a little better, why we don't have to go out to
Right,
bid.
if that was like.
We're really handing over
Right.
the responsibilities. It's not that that work's not getting done, it's just not getting done now by the town.
Yeah.
We're giving that to the state of New York, and the state of New York has contracted with Nationwide to provide this public benefit. So we'd be signing on to, similarly to what we did with solar, to like join the joint RFP, but now it's instead of several municipalities or a dozen municipalities in central New York, it's thousands of municipalities across the state. Is that accurate?
That's exactly, that's described. Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Karen, you had a question?
Yeah, Dan, thanks for coming. Discretion, you have total discretion of the accounts, I'm assuming. With
The state you're talking?
Yes.
Yes, so as far as the investments and, yeah, so the state handles that. They have the fiduciary responsibility of choosing the investments and, yes. So the town, are you looking at the town choosing their own funds? Is that what you're getting at?
Or certain participants.
Well, the participants would pick their own, they would pick up the options.
Yeah,
So they won't be actively managed by the financial advisor. So a fee-based financial advisor has discretion, which means that they can
Right.
make the decisions for you. So sell you out of an entire mutual fund and move you into something totally different if they felt that that was in your best interest without needing to talk to you. This does not have that.
Right.
They wouldn't be actively managing or
Yeah,
making those
exactly.
decisions.
you could have somebody do that for you if you'd like. You know, you could pay someone to, but not through us.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you'd have to.
And then that's a new fiduciary responsibility that individual will be picking up. I
Well,
know.
and then accessibility, too, Dan, how accessible are you to the employees?
Yeah, so I live right in Utica, so not far away. I handle Utica, Syracuse, Binghamton territory. We meet with people face to face, individually, group presentations. If you guys do benefits, fairs, things like that, we come to those. Union meetings. We do webinars. I have monthly webinars since COVID last year, we've all been doing that. Webinars, phone appointments. I have a link right on my email where people can sign up to call for me to call them with phone appointments. So we're here. You know, we're accessible to anybody who needs it. I was just up just a little while ago at the village of Cape Vincent on my way down here. So same thing, presentation to the employees. That's what they want, face-to-face, you know, individual meetings. That's what we do. So we have 17 reps across the state. So if for some reason I'm tied up with something, we have other people that can help out. Usually it's not an issue, but we do help each other, cover for each other. I was in Long Island a couple weeks ago helping with a project down there because, you know, we need a little bit of help. But yeah, so we're available, just like, you know, your current rep would be, same type of thing.
I have one last question, really. Just one last. And that is nuts and bolts, get into the weeds, the transition.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that we usually leave like a 90-day window for that.
Yep.
Our town manager is here, who deals with all of, and over there, who deals with all the paperwork that coordinates along with what has to be coordinated through our payroll. So I guess the question is, how much are you going to relieve and of a lot of the work, or how does that work between the two of you or between whoever the administrator is that does that transition?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of these transitions. So we have a team that will help do that. So myself, we would come in and we would actually speak with hopefully everybody that's looking to would have to change over.
Right.
To get them re-enrolled with us, because we have to have everyone sign up for new application. We need to know how much they want to contribute, investments, all that stuff. And then we would pick a date with the previous company that you have the account with. We would work together with them to get that money transitioned over. We map it over.
Yep.
There's usually a blackout period of a day, you know, where the money's out of the market for a day, and then it transfers into our account the next day, and they're live and ready to go. Pick a day based on your payroll that would work well for you guys. So, you know, we don't want to hit it on a day that's, you're getting paid, something
Yeah.
like that, where the contributions can't come in.
Yeah,
So we've got a lot of experience with that. We'll walk you through that process, help you out. How many, you guys have about 60 participants in the plan?
yeah, 63 or
Okay.
so, yeah.
We're used to doing this. Like I said, with the city of Syracuse, we did 1,500 participants transferred over in one day. So I'm not saying 60 small, but 60 relatively easy. For this type of, we've done that before,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't be, it shouldn't be a huge deal.
So I'm going to go backwards. My question will come in just one second, but to follow on the process part, it sounds like internal communication that we do ahead of time could be helpful. Like
For the transition.
yeah, ramping everybody up and supporting
Yeah.
that. So that might be something that I'm flagging up as a board that we make sure we are.
Or do you send it out to us and then we?
Well, we would ask that, honestly, if you decide to transfer over, that, the initial communication would come from you.
Okay.
That says, we're making this change, here's why we're making this change. Here's the timeline, here's what you have to do. And we could even send that out to retirees, if you have retirees that still have the account. We can invite them in if you'd like to, invite them in for workshops and go through the plan. We've done that in the past. So, the more support we have from you guys, the better. If it just comes from us, everyone's thinking,
Yeah, right.
what's this? What's the change? So the more support we have from the town, we'll work with you guys to make it as smooth as possible. So the timeline is generally about a 3-month time frame. I don't know if we would need that much time in this case, but we would have to meet with everyone and get them re-enrolled. And then, we want to give everybody time to look over everything, make decisions on investments.
So my last question was, thank you. So I'm looking at all the options, and really this is a question for Ed and for Caitlin too. So I noticed the specialty funds, the very aggressive OTC
Oh,
fund,
yeah.
and the PAX Global Environmental Markets Fund. So
Yep.
if I'm somebody who wants to have, I know I have to paint by number here. I just pick something that's laid out for me.
Right.
But say I'm excited about socially responsible investing, or say I'm really excited about the OTC funds. Do you, as advisors, are those two that you are familiar with and satisfied by seeing throughout the options, or do you wish there are others?
Well, I can say that the fact that there are any socially responsible funds in the plan is admirable and impressive, because for the most part, with any of these, with any defined contribution plans, so that would be your 401ks, groceries, 457, socially responsible investments typically aren't available.
Right.
And I won't get into the weeds of the fact that they can be available, but they're oftentimes just not selected because of a lack of awareness in the industry on what those things are and how they perform. So it's just to see one or two in there is fantastic, that people can align their values with their investments while investing for their retirement as state employees.
I think that one in particular is one that the board is really proud of. They've
Yeah, it's a
always
good plan.
offered socially responsible fund since I've been with the plan. So that's something that they want to continue to offer. We also have, one thing that people get concerned about with this plan is the number of investment options. They think either it's too big or too little. I think they need more options, which is always the best thing.
Yeah.
But if somebody is looking for something different, we have, once they have $10,000 in the account, they can move up to half of their money over to Charles Schwab.
Oh.
And we have the mutual fund window up to 3,000 mutual funds
Okay.
and ETFs they can choose from. So if there's not
That's
something
cool.
here that they want, they're gonna find it.
You're right.
The state does not allow individual stock investments. It'll be mutual funds or ETFs, but for these types of plans, I think that's
Yeah,
pretty much what people want.
The core is really.
Yeah, so, there's really no way to, knock the number of investment options, because they can get into anything with Charles Schwab if they want to.
That's good to know. I didn't
Yeah.
So I was just looking over my notes from our call, and one thing I wanted to make sure we touched on was the dedicated office in Albany.
Yeah.
And I thought I don't need to ask the question because I have the answer, but I asked you, are these individuals licensed financial advisors? I didn't want it to be just the call center where you're talking to someone who's reading from a script. And it's open until 11 o'clock at night. And you told me that they're all fully licensed.
Correct.
So they have their Series 6, 63 New York State life accident and health insurance licenses.
They all have their Series 6. All its field reps have 663 at least, and New York State life accident. Right. But all the call center have to have 6.
Okay.
That's the requirement. So we're open 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 on Saturdays. They only take calls about this plan. That's it.
Oh, that's
So, and they take a lot of calls. I mean, we've had it where they've taken, 20,000 calls in a month. I mean, you wouldn't think there's that many calls coming in, but there are.
Yeah, that's
So
the
if you
market
get home
for
at
it.
night after work and you're looking over your plan and you have a question, you can call and someone will talk to you until 11.
Yep, live person, so 11 o'clock at night. You can also do everything on the website too. The website, has really kind of taken off. Obviously, a lot of people do that stuff now, just their day-to-day banking, everything. You can do the same thing here. As far as the town is concerned, we always ask that the employees come to us to make changes to their account. Take the burden off of you guys. We don't want them going to you to change contributions. Obviously, investments, they would come to us. And then we would notify you guys of any changes. Whoever works for payroll, we'd send them a notification. Next, Sally Smith enrolled today for 5%, or change their contribution from 5 to 10%. So you guys know.
Another thing I wanted to touch on was, where did my notes go? Okay, so one of the concerns that we have, or one of the things that we want to champion is participation of the town's employees in the plan, helping them to understand the benefit, helping to make sure that they're enrolled. And one of the other things you mentioned is that you see on average a 25% increase in participation over a plan.
Generally, yeah. I mean, it's not always that high, but we see generally probably around a 20 to 25% increase. And the reason being, we're getting that word out there. People see there's a change made. Previously, they weren't thinking about it. Now, they come listening on presentations, and a lot of people will involve us at that point. So we want to make this open to everybody. If you were to decide to, transfer over, invite everybody in, have them all listen in, because not just the people who are in the plan, but it's all the employees that can benefit from a plan like this. So we get that word out to them.
Yeah, we had over 100 employees, and we have done job fairs where we've had the representatives in here,
Yep.
different, banks and credit unions and 457. So we'd like, that would, unless you have a whole different way of doing it, I think it'd be great if we can increase participation, as Caitlin has mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have a good participation rate, honestly. 60 people with 100 employees.
Yeah, 100 members.
That's a pretty good participation rate, but obviously there's still 40% that don't do it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, but that's good still. I mean,
Yeah.
60% is a good participation rate.
Ed and I did a little bit of a road show when we went around to the different departments in the town, and we really wanted to hear the feedback from the participants in the plan, from our employees, about the things that they want to see, the things that they haven't liked, the things that they have liked. And one of the things that was stressed across the board was individual meetings, understanding what this really is. Because I mean, I remember when I started in the industry 10 years ago, this would have been absolute gibberish to me.
Sure.
So is that something that you could commit to doing,
Sure.
individual meetings with every employee?
That's actually part of the transition. That's what we try to do. I mean, everyone who wants to meet with us, we'll be there. I mean, there's 60 people that have to transition over. So we would like at least those 60 to meet with us. We'd like everyone else too. We find that if you guys are willing, we'll do a whole presentation to any number of people. We can go to different departments, and I can really explain the plan that way, and then meet with them individually, so we can talk about their individual accounts versus just kind of the general presentation. But it gives them an idea of what this plan is, how it works, how it's different from what they had before, costs are. We break all that down for them. We'll talk about the pension plan as well, because we work, hand in hand with the state, so I know the pension plan pretty much inside and out, so. We'll show them how to calculate that if they don't know. We also can do that on our website with our retirement planner, so. Yeah, we'd absolutely do that, no problem.
I think those were all the things I wanted to make sure everyone heard from my discussion with Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Anybody else? Are you
Yeah,
good?
just one,
Oh,
there were 3 members on the board, you said, the governor, and who were the other 2
They're appointed by the governor,
appointed? Okay,
each of their names, actually.
oh, that's all right.
I pulled it up
It just
in case
seems
you
like
want to know.
3
I wanted to know
board is
who are
small
they?
compared to.
So Diana Jones Ritter is appointed by the governor. David Natoli is appointed by the Senate majority, and Blake Washington is appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly.
okay.
And do you know how many there are on the state pension plan? How many are there? The New York State Comptroller,
Hmm.
it's the sole fiduciary. I know,
I didn't know that.
yeah. I learned that during the commitment to divest from fossil fuels. There was one more thing. Oh, just quick note. One of the things that I thought was so interesting is that because this is all they do, but the folks at Nationwide that are in this one department, they're experts on the New York State pension. And so they understand all the different rules. I mean, it's very complicated and it depends on what year you got in and how many years of service you have. And so they're able to not only help you to enroll and save for your retirement, but to understand all of your benefits and how they fit together.
Right.
Which I think it would be extremely beneficial to our employees because it's so difficult to understand. And if you're calling the pension people,
Good luck getting them up.
good luck.
Yeah,
getting them on
right.
the phone. So they
it's
Nationwide,
tough.
they're experts in this, they're trained in this, they're licensed financial advisors. They can say, this is how your pension is gonna work, this is how much you'll get. Social Security is this. This is, if you put this in your retirement plan, you'll have this much a month when you retire. Does that help you to meet your financial goals? I think all those pieces coming together in one place would be exceptional.
And we spoke, Dan, on the phone, and this was we were somewhat old school because we've always had local representation.
Sure.
You know, and when we went out to talk to everybody, that was the focal point along, not so much the fees at first, and then the fees became an issue, but then representation became an issue.
Sure.
And so we, as Caitlin said, did a roadshow, and we learned a lot, as far as the fact that can we get the type of representation we've had, Utica's not, 50 minutes away, it's not that far, but it sounds like you travel a lot anyway.
Used to more than now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I think that, and I've talked to our current advisor, that is with the pension plan, which is another Dan, I think we told you that. So we only bring Dan's on, just so you know. And he totally gets it. I mean, one of the first things he said was if you're just looking for the lowest fee, then the New York State plan, is the way to go. And he said that very clearly to all of us.
Yeah.
And so when we met, some groups liked that service, some said, well, not so much, and it was a mixed bag,
Sure.
So I think that this is a good, I won't say test, because I think you've been tested, over the years.
Yeah.
And if we can guarantee the kind of service that we're used to,
Sure.
and the fees are much lower, then it seems to make more sense to do the New York State plan.
Sure.
So, and again, like I said, Dan totally Dan, the other Dan, totally gets it. He said, I know what you're saying. I have no problem with that. So I just thought that was important. And he still, by the way, works with the disability plans that we have here. So he's been here since 2003, so he's been around a while. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you and the board as far as, some of the history.
Yeah, I mean, and what we tell people to do is, and that's come up before with other transitions we've had. And
Yeah.
specifically just did one with Broome County about 5 years ago. They actually kept their deferred compensation board together, even though they don't have to anymore because the state has taken over the responsibility. They don't have to do it, but they decided to keep it together. Take a look at what the services have been, take a look at, the participants, are they happy with the plan?
Right.
You guys can do the same thing here, and you know, we can always revisit that every year and see what, you know.
And as I mentioned, lastly, one of the things that Dan Jeffrey was able to do with Lincoln was to extend the stable value, because there's some people in that fund,
Sure.
and there's no guarantee once through the end of the year. So that gives us the time, the 90 days. At some point, we can target, whether it's September or October. September's not far away, and so we could have all this done by year end, if not sooner.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, you just let me know what you're thinking, and we can, work with. Now,
Lincoln.
Lincoln. Okay. Lincoln, we can work with them on decide to come on board a transition date, and get out here to meet with everybody and get them signed up. And
Yep.
go from there. So yeah, that gives us plenty of time.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
your time.
Does anyone else on the board have any questions about any of that? Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with switching to the New York State deferred compensation plan with Nationwide
And as far as dates, we'll say within the next
by year end.
4 months, 5 months.
Well, don't we just,
Year end, by year end,
don't
okay.
we adopt this
We have
resolution?
Well, no, because we did the
I have a question.
Yeah,
though,
we did.
Mr.
Yes,
Supervisor, I just want to make sure, because we've been under discussion many months about this.
Mhm.
And I recall many members of the highway department and the police department were satisfied with the plan. So I always like to look majority rules.
Well,
And
yeah.
I just want to make sure,
I think their concern,
That
Karen,
this- with the-
both was to make sure that the
The highway.
service was there. That was their main concern, that the highway was more concerned with that than the fees.
Dan, don't leave yet.
Okay.
Another one trying to escape.
The Irish divide us at work with automatic. So I think that
Yeah.
so
Yeah, we
Karen,
met with all of
Yeah.
them and the same with the police and believe me, you've seen you've seen the research I put together. It's a part of it, along with all the fees that we worked out,
Right.
Definitely
last
done
one. So we've definitely done our homework on this. So for the fairness of everyone, if you can have lower fees and we're not losing service.
Yeah.
Then that's two good things to have, and Dan's promised that that service will be there even 50 minutes a day.
And then the nice thing too is, right, we can opt in and we can try it and then we can leave as well.
But that's true, yeah, I mean.
You get a second one.
Yeah.
yeah, the fact that they
We'll be
open
the
up.
second one in 35 years.
This process has helped me understand a little bit of the buying power and also why the fees are lower. And
Yeah.
it's about scale, clearly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Yeah.
to understand some of the other benefits has been helpful too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was collapsed a little bit for me, in the earlier conversation. So thank you very much for the work that you both have done and for your presentation to bring it forward so that I can understand better. I hope that everyone else in the community does too.
And I think that we can even circle back to our very first discussion on this
Yeah.
in one of, our board meeting over many weeks ago. And the discussion was at the time that if you really like the service that you're getting and if you're getting fantastic service and that you're willing to pay for it,
Yeah.
then that's the best option.
Yeah.
And if the cheapest option isn't necessarily the best option, and I think Dan Jeffries put that really well in that meeting, and I agree with that sentiment. But if there is a significantly cheaper option that from the looks of it will have superior service
Yeah.
to what we've been receiving, then Karen, I understand the majority rules that you would want to certainly to hear from our employees and to make sure that
That's okay. So.
that we have consensus that everyone's happy with this.
Yeah.
I heard from the highway department, Ed and I was unable to attend the town hall meeting, and then I was at the police department meeting. The things that were stressed were the fees are high, service is important to us. And so if I had spoken with this gentleman on the phone and he said, you know, it's a call center, no one's licensed, and well, you probably, what's your name again? What's your municipality, town of Manlius? Like, I would have said, okay, this is not the way to go. But he's clearly presented an option that will meet the needs of our municipality and of our employees. And then for me, I think the important thing to remember is that we are fiduciaries on this plan. So we have to act in the best interest of the beneficiaries of the plan, which are our employees. So even if the majority just really like Dan Jeffries, but we knew that what was best for our employees was a significantly cheaper plan that provided great service.
Yeah.
It's incumbent on us to make the legally compliant decision, the fiduciary decision to act in that interest.
And it was interesting because you were being tested, you didn't know it, but Kayla and I were visiting, going over this, and we go, well, why don't we call him, you know, and that's what she did. We'll see how long it takes to get back, you know.
So Dan, the reason I asked it not to go is because I thought I heard you say there's a resolution or a specific resolution that
There is.
I have all that.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have this. Yeah.
So
Or I'll put
Yeah.
it together.
Yeah.
So I'd like
It's on
to,
the agenda, right?
is the resolution,
If you give us a sample,
Okay.
blank resolution.
I have a blank resolution right here.
okay,
Yeah, we
good,
have
it.
it.
okay, so that's the resolution you're moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we pass the resolution to
Fill in
adopt.
the blank.
The filter.
We will fill in the blank. And no, it says we're at the
All
town of
in.
Manlius, which is to
Yeah,
adopt.
that's it in there already.
He filled it in for us.
I didn't agree,
I'm sorry.
We probably should have given this to our attorney.
Well, of course, we didn't.
Well, we didn't know.
We didn't know if we were gonna make the decision.
I will forward this to you, Tim. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the New York State Deferred Compensation Plan provided by New York State and nationwide.
And I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
And
As outlined.
Opposed?
As
As
outlined in the
outlined.
resolution.
Okay, Carrie, all right, you're on. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good job.
you.
Be in touch.
Good work, Lauren.
Thank you.
You promised.
Keep your cell phone on.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, my concern, we talked about this, how many years this guy been in business, you know? that kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
and I was so pleased to find out that everyone who answers the phone is fully licensed.
Yeah.
That it's not easy to get your six, as we know it, like this is, it's a very difficult test, so these people know what they're doing
Right,
with that.
right, almost lost my agenda. All right, so we're moving right along, that was, took a little longer we thought.
Thorough, it was thorough.
Yes, all right, next, we've all been waiting for, number 8. The proposal for local law to place a moratorium on the processing of commercial solar array applications. I'll just read this briefly so everyone can record. The town, we held a public hearing on last board meeting, July 28th, 2021. Heard comments from residents on the proposed local law. The town tabled the matter until we received a resolution from Onondaga County Board, which we did receive, I believe, last Friday, I think it came to us. The agenda item is for discussion and voting tonight. Public hearing has been closed, so there's no public discussion on this, it's strictly between the board now. If any resident wishes to submit further correspondence, they may do so by submitting a letter to the town clerk office or emailing the town clerk Weber at her email address. So Tim has put together, I think, the updated version, Tim, of the moratorium. Right? And everyone's had a chance to read it. Let me do a little summary, then we'll go around the room. Obviously, we heard from an awful lot of people last week. I lost count. I had it all matched down to over 30 or 40. And it seemed like, I would say 99% of everyone said, yes, solar is the way to go. It's great. Okay. We heard all the environmental issues. But there was many that said, why do the moratorium? There was some that said, we need to just put the brakes on a little bit. So it was solar, right? So, and we, just to give a quick summary for the board, of course, one of the main reasons we started looking at this moratorium is because the planning board had decided that they wanted us to consider the moratorium. And since that time, we did get a letter, you guys all got the email from the chairman, Joe Lupia, regarding his change of mind that he didn't think we needed to have a moratorium. We pulled the rest of the board, and the planning board, and I think we heard all but one. I think Fred's the only one we didn't hear back from.
We did hear from Fred.
Did we
Fred
get Fred?
Gilbert?
Yeah, did he respond? Okay.
Yep.
So pretty much everyone, and this was an interesting one. I want to read this, which we just got from Valerie Beecher. She was originally in full, oh, by the way, everyone except Joe and Valerie sort of on the fence a little bit. Everyone was still the moratorium. Joe said, let's not do the moratorium. And Valerie's was an interesting email, which I just read before we came in here, that between the public hearing and learning of the timelessness of the current solar projects and NYSERDA incentives and the amount we've already learned in the solar group, I think there's a potential we can simultaneously get done what needs to be done to move forward with other solar projects without a 6-month moratorium, jeopardizing losing the potential for renewable energy. I'd also be in favor of a shorter moratorium of ensuring that the moratorium wraps up sooner than 6 months. Now, we've always said that we don't have to go 6 months, okay? But and I know that Sarah, we've talked, you've put together the solar team, which we've had, what, how many meetings so far? 3 meetings. And so we're already sort of ahead of the ball game. But there's still a lot of questions, I think, about OSIDA and assessments and that type of thing that Arnie Boltonson had some really good points on. So I just think, yeah, we want solar, okay? But as we keep saying, we want to do it right. And we have a lot of tools to work with. We have our 2016 code book and zone that we can still work off from. But we still need to learn before we get back into the nuts and bolts. At least that's my opinion, okay? So, I mean, I would still, myself, I would still be in favor of the moratorium. But I would certainly like to say, we say 6 months, but we need to try to get some progress and results done before that 6 months is up, you know? And who knows how these projects are gonna end up once they get to the planning board anyway. I mean, Duga's huge, you know, Salt Springs almost as huge, but not as huge. So anyway, that's a quick summary of what I've been reading, what I've been hearing. And so if you wanna go around the room and give us your thoughts so that we can discuss this further, I think we could do that. Want to start with you, Heather?
Sure.
We'll loop around. Is that all right?
Sure. I am so glad that we're all on the same page, that the town wants solar. It's great. I care very much that the planning board has the tools that it needs to do its work. When we heard that the planning board, we gave the planning board also the work of working on solar through the special permit process. And that really was the weight behind that too. So when they said, whoa, we're overwhelmed, we're really concerned we're gonna get all these new, we can see the pace and we're gonna get these new applications. I took that quite seriously and was glad that we had the solar working group. We have trusted the planning board chair for a long time, and he served for 52 years. And Joe Lupia has had a resounding realization that they do have, following this tremendous effort that we've made in the community to get as much information as possible and to hear from as many people, the worries about heavy metals and all kinds of other things have been laid to rest solidly. And he believes that, and as he said, the planning board unanimously agreed to support the moratorium so the town might look into the solar issue and try to address the issue with the new comprehensive plan. But during the past 4 weeks, I reviewed extensive research concerning solar farms. This is his note that he sent to us yesterday. In light of that research, I've changed my mind with respect to the moratorium. Based on that research, I found no credibility as to the various objections to solar farms. Concerns relating to toxic leaching, solar glare, noise, and danger to wildlife have no merit. Additionally, it has become clear that only a very limited number of solar farms will be able to connect to the energy grid. Fear of solar plants throughout the town are unwarranted. These farms are excellent sources of clean, renewable energy. Our climate is facing serious consequences. Now is the time to act. In light of this, I wish to let you know that I believe the moratorium will not assist the town, but would only delay the much needed clean energy that is surely needed. So I asked him, we talked a little bit about the project I just said. So he says that the Salt Springs project is of course very different than the others in terms of its visibility.
Right.
And so I said, do you feel, planning board wise, that you have the ability to review this plan and the landscape needs and the rest of it and work on this plan for the planning board? And you have the support to do that. He said, yes. So if that is the case, and we think as a board, we've discussed the idea that maybe through the comprehensive planning process and our zoning work, we need to look at overlay districts instead of the solar permit process, because we just have a little bit of, with these given projects in front of us, if they all went forward, we would only have a little bit of load left within the grid.
The grid.
The grid.
Yeah.
We would still need to do the work of making sure that we understood zoning wise how to keep improving the 2016 rules. I don't think we need the moratorium to do that. I think we need to make sure the planning board can do what it needs to do. I think that these projects have what they need and are going to be willing to work with the town. And I think the residents have a right to talk about what they need as private owners and neighbors for these projects. And that's why I want to vote no on the moratorium.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we'll be a little repetitive, but I got it planned here. So I just kind of recap to when residents came to the board on June 23rd, requesting a solar moratorium due to the concerns of the amount of solar farms applications that the planning board had received. We definitely took this under consideration. As we were already looking into providing assistance and resources to the planning board as they were reviewing these solar applications. So we made a map of the 5 current special permits that were already approved in the 2 pending projects to see where we were. I have reviewed our solar code multiple times. I attended the solar law workshop, met with OSIDA twice, listened to residents, and I have come to the conclusion that I believe others have as well, that we do not need a solar moratorium. I commend the planning board in the review of these projects, which are conditional based on getting a building permit and being completed in X amount of years. I also commend the past town board who adopted our current solar code in 2016. We may want to review some updates to this code in the future, but not to the extent that would warrant a 6-month moratorium, in my opinion. I want to thank the community for coming out to the public hearing. It was very helpful to hear from everyone, especially our youth, landowners, and neighbors. All your perspectives are so important for us to hear. Through this process, we have learned about our electrical grid capacity. With these 2 pending applications before the planning board, our grid for solar in the town of Manlius is almost at capacity, with maybe room for 1 smaller solar farm. With that, and especially hearing from the chair of the planning board, Joe Lupia's letter, stating that he does not believe we need a solar moratorium anymore, I will be voting no on the moratorium, and I urge my colleagues to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Jan.
So I think, from the beginning, this was quite an ordeal. Showing up to that planning board meeting and that attendance, and, I think we've made it pretty clear that that's what we want. We want that kind of participation. We want that public input. We had a petition with somewhere between 300 and 350 signatures. That was great. And the attendance here was amazing. We had a rally outside to talk about this. And I think, when I consider where we were, when I originally heard that there was a request for moratorium, it made a lot of sense then. And then really, I think Joe's statement really lays it out there. The majority of that backlash that we don't want solar because, it turns out, and it's tough nowadays to get good facts on the internet, but we've been able to meet with all the experts, and a lot of those fears we can very confidently say are not warranted. And we're just gonna go back to the planning board doing what they do best, which is making sure that a development fits the neighborhood. They can talk about setbacks, they can talk about all these other things, something that they know how to do very well. I think in a large part, we're coming out of a 1.5 month moratorium. That's how I feel. We've done it.
Yeah.
We've done that work, and we're not gonna stop doing that work. The comprehensive plan is gonna give us an opportunity to look at future sites and maybe look at an overlay district or, a more interesting or more better equipped way to handle these in the future. I'm hoping that we do get, upgrades made to our substations at some point in the future, because we're, able to bring on solar, fairly quickly. But in general, I think the comprehensive planning process is for a 5-year plan. So we're gonna be able to address all this. We're really gonna be able to understand the future of solar, and we'll be able to delve into capacity and all that stuff. But I think, especially with Joe's statement from the planning board, I think we have taken the pause we needed. We had the conversations we needed, we did the research we needed, and I think we're ready to let the planning board do what they do best. So I will be voting no on the moratorium.
So this has been a very difficult subject for me. As I think I've mentioned to at least our supervisor and probably a few of my colleagues, the two issues that get me really emotional are social justice due to my daughters and climate change. It makes me emotional because our planet is on fire today, right now. California, Germany's floods, the things we're seeing on the news, and it's on my little phone, or I don't have cable, so I'm watching all these things on my computer or on my phone, and it moves me to my core, and it makes me feel like, what could anyone ever do? So when this moratorium came up and John and I went and presented to the planning board, I did leave that meeting feeling defeated, because if acting on climate change and providing good planning and appropriate tools and good mechanisms for our community are disaligned or in opposition to each other, I did leave that meeting feeling defeated, that I couldn't do anything to move the needle on this catastrophic global crisis. And but then I thought, okay, the moratorium can work. I reached out to Tim with my tail between my legs and said, write the moratorium, write the damn moratorium. And I talked to Chris Carrick at the planning board, and I said, we're writing a moratorium because I think it's wise to consider a moratorium and to make sure you're doing it right. And it doesn't mean you're not helping with the climate crisis. It just means you're taking some time to do the good work. And when we had that public hearing, I thought we were all, or I won't speak for all of us because I know some of us were still opposed to it, but many of my colleagues were planning on voting for the moratorium. And I was just grinning, like smiling through the meeting, because when the one gentleman read back to us our own solar code, I thought, well, by golly, we've already got a lot of this done, don't we? And as I read through that list, as Heather had requested at the beginning, and I just happened to have it up, so much of the work had already been done. And I was still waffling. I still didn't know for sure. And when the planning board, when we heard from the chairman, that did help to convince me that there are problems that we face as a community and there are solutions. And so the moratorium was a requested solution to a problem. And so we're not saying by voting no on the moratorium that we don't think any problems exist. There's more work to do, but we're saying that the moratorium isn't necessarily the best solution to that. And that's what we heard from Joe Lupia. And so I am also planning to vote no on the moratorium, because I feel that not only are the interests of our planet aligned with our community, but that we in the town of Manlius can be leaders in the effort against climate change.
Sarah?
Hi. So as a person who's been working diligently on this solar task force, I think there's some things that, so first off, I agree that we want solar and all that. So, I think the part I have learned a lot, and I think most of us have learned a lot about some of these details. And some of the areas we went through was really understanding more about the business model, understanding how much the grid could hold or not hold, what sort of size and capacity of the solar farm should be and why they were those sizes. Some issues with our own law that we wanted to tinker with and maybe make some modifications. How would that impact of a project that was sort of in process while we were changing the rules on them, and how we would sort of adopt a law and then retroactively make somebody comply with it, so some of that kind of stuff I think is still not clear. I think that I think we have put to bed some of the environmental risks, and I think it's pretty clear what the overall benefits are of a solar farm. But I think the financial package of it is still not clear to me. I think we understand the pilots. The purpose of a pilot is to give a break to the solar developer and give the town of Manlius less.
You're right.
I mean, that's what the purpose is. So as a representative of the residents of the town of Manlius, I want to say, well, what do we get out of this? And this is where I think we have not completed our work, is in this host community agreement. And I think that there are so I think there's some changes I'd like to make. I think, okay, let me make a sentence. I think that in terms of an immediate work that the solar team still has to do, I think we need to understand the host community agreements better. And I think we need to go through real amendments to our law that are things around the fencing and some other things that we would like to change wording. I think the issue of the zoning, the wholesale change of the zoning could come later as part of the comprehensive plan. That's a really big land use issue. I'm okay letting that go, that we don't have to deal with that now. But I do think that the work group needs some more time to complete its work, and therefore I will vote for a moratorium.
Thank you, Sarah. Karen, you are.
Well, I think everyone knows I am definitely in favor of a moratorium. And I've talked with a number of people, not only from the town of Manlius, but our region and our surrounding towns and counties. Several of them are going by the route of taking a moratorium, and 6 months is nothing, really. You look at it. I mean, here it is, almost the end of the year. 6 months would bring us into February 1st.
Yeah.
And just to give us that more time, much more time to really look at this and the impact it has on every single resident in this town. And, I do believe the majority of the people that were at the public hearing last week were in favor of a moratorium. I mean, certainly solar, the needs, the environmental issues, everyone, understands that. But to grant a moratorium that gives the town an opportunity to provide responsible government to our constituents, I think is imperative. And I must say, last weekend, I had the opportunity to drive from Cape Vincent all the way down to Watkins Glen. Well, I was not impressed with some of these solar gardens, farms, whatever I saw. And a lot of it, and they were very different, I must say. So, it comes down to the burns, the construction materials, how they're maintaining them. And 6 months is nothing. It would give us an opportunity to have more discussion on this. And I love Joe Lupia. He's, and he's not saying that he's not for it. And I do know there are several people on that planning board that would like to see the moratorium because they have questions as to how developed it plays. So I am in definite favor.
And I did get an email from Ann Kelly a couple of weeks ago, and I can't find it. But she was, stressed that she was for the moratorium. So, I mean, on the planning board, I guess it was 5 to 1.5, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
So I appreciate all of that. financial advisor, I count pretty good too, you know, but of 7 of us. I mean, we've all shared our beliefs and our concerns. And if that's the case, then we should probably vote yes or no for the moratorium. If anyone wants to make a motion to vote for the moratorium, then we can vote yes or no. We could do that.
Well, I'd be happy to make a motion, Mr. Supervisor, in favor of the local law to place a moratorium on the solar farm applications that are already put forth with. No, second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? 4. All right, it is not carried then, and therefore there will not be a moratorium. So this time. Thank you, board. That was
Thank you.
very well thought out by everyone. I think everyone's hearts were in it, certainly, and minds.
At the outset of that, I thought I was solidly in favor of the moratorium.
Yeah.
I really did. I thought, you know what, they're right, we need it. And as Sarah mentioned, there's more work to do. But I think that these things are coming up all the time in different areas, and that we're figuring those things out as we go. So we're not causing anything else.
And I think as we move forward, I mean, so it still has the solar, I mean, we're gonna keep the solar team together,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and we don't need barbed wire. We can figure out how to get barbed
We
wire.
don't have barbed wire.
There's no barbed
But I
wire.
think-
There's
but I
no
think-
barbed wire in the code.
But I think the finances that Sarah brought up is imperative, that we need to really figure that out.
Yeah, we'll definitely get a better deal than Clay. And I'm
Which,
sorry
by
to
the way,
say, I'm
I-
sorry to say, but
I got a phone call from Clay.
Yeah,
I haven't got back.
Well, and that was one of the things, and Karen, to your point, that like all these other municipalities are passing the moratorium. But to Elaine's point, in applauding the board that came before us, we
Yeah.
have a robust, comprehensive solar
We had
law
quite a-
that was
we had
I
quite a
will
team
never
we
not
put
give
together.
the former board credit for
credit
what
for
you did.
sure.
Yeah.
Like Chris Harris said, you've got a great law, like Pompey put an overlay zone. And so I thought maybe we need an overlay zone. Let's look into that. We don't need one because our law is so good. So we just don't, well, and we don't have a moratorium, so.
Yeah. And we aren't all formed, right?
Oh, it's time to talk about pot next.
All right, so what we're gonna do, just to move along here, is for the time being, we're gonna table 9, which I know is still on there, recreational marijuana, and the Salt Springs Water District. We're still wrapping some things up with that.
No, we're gonna table that.
We're gonna table that,
Oh.
yeah, because we're still waiting for some information. that I
Oh.
received, yeah. So next is the bid for trash and brush contracts. I know, Ann, you've been working on that with Tim diligently here. Either one of you want to?
So at the end of this year, the trash and brush bid contracts are up. Usually begin the process of sending out the bid packages. We're probably a couple weeks late now compared to 3 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But Ann has worked with the existing documents that we've had in the past. I've reviewed them. I sent them out to everybody for you to review today. I know it's very extensive.
It's 9
But
pages.
we could
Is it
still,
necessary to be that expensive?
yes. Yes, it is necessary because you have it's not just one document, it's probably 5 documents. There's the bid notification, there's the scope of bid, there's the instructions for the bid. Then there's all the documents that the state requires for a competitive bid. Then there's the actual contract itself, which is attached to it so that anybody who bids on it will know what the contract is going to be. So it's all of those documents in a package. And if you haven't gotten through it all today, which I wouldn't expect you to, please feel free over the course of the next 3 or 4 days to get back to us. We're just asking that we can send out the bid package or put the notice in the paper for the bid packages. When was the date that you were looking for? 20.
I mean,
Yes. September 22nd would be the award of the bid.
Okay.
But the bid package
To be in the newspaper.
would be in the newspapers next week.
So we need to agree to do that, it's just this time.
Oh, sorry. No, you raised your hand. Okay.
Go ahead.
I just want to know, like, what's the difference between, like, how do we update it, what do we add, what do we scratch?
Change
That's
dates.
exactly my question.
To basically just
Okay,
change the dates.
Because food waste is 15% of what we're throwing away. It's a lot of stuff we're hauling to the landfill. And Okra probably would like to see more of the municipalities participate in the composting. And that, all I'm saying is that I wonder if there's a way for us to look at what we can signal to the haulers too, that we're interested in learning about, in terms of maybe they have plans that they're coming up with for other municipalities for for composting, or bringing, they could include it in the bid. So I just want to see if we can have.
Explain to me what, you're talking about removing composting?
Like having a garbage bin or recycling bin and a compost bin.
As part of their proposal to us.
Which they would remove?
Yeah, they would
Yeah.
take it.
Well, and
They
Yeah.
would empty the compost bin.
Yeah, since
They would
this goes on for a number
or
of years.
something that functions, that you would have a separate container
For
for
food
food
waste.
waste.
For food waste.
That would,
That they would take it to compost.
The same way, yeah, and so there are not many models of these things out there, because they're expensive. However, we are not going to be able to be reducing our trash with our recycling in the same ways going forward over the next few years. So we have to find some savings somewhere. So it's something to think about, 15%
Yeah, it
of our
would
trash.
decrease the amount, and like when it sits in a landfill, it sits there, it's not getting sun. There's not the necessary microbes to break down, so like that banana peel's still there, just like the McDonald's French fry you'd find in your mom's couch from 25 years
And a
ago.
hot dog.
And definitely
Great.
between, yeah. But all I'm saying is, I wonder if we could, so all I want to ask is, I didn't understand this process, so apologies to Ann and to everybody for not knowing what we needed to do ahead of this moment.
Okay.
Okay, but
Reach out to them.
Do we need to
we
make
just
a
want to
motion
update it,
authorize
or be able to
this?
ask
So-
them to ask.
so- I can try to, in terms of the notice, I don't think it's necessary. Nothing could, the notice can go out the way it
The
is.
notice
Okay.
in the paper. that's-
Awesome,
Yeah, okay.
great.
We won't have time, the big packages, the way we have it scheduled, we, August 25th, that's not gonna be possible.
Oh, August 25th.
It's for how many years, Ann? The
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, 3
So
years.
we could,
yeah, I think in the meantime, I
we
think
could
that's
work
really
on it.
where we.
Yeah,
where
but
the-
sometimes there's an
Yeah.
extension. that-
Or- And then like maybe we look at doing like a
a
pilot.
pilot program
where
so that we
it's
can be
an
ready for the
opt-in
next
thing, see what
process.
the-
Move this forward with the return of the bid date, that's fine, we just have to be aware that we have to have the rates in order.
Yeah.
For the budget.
Of course.
We have to
Right.
have that
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
beginning
so.
of November, so
Right.
you would need to back up from there, give yourself about 3 weeks to review bids, so.
I mean, and we can start talking with them.
I think it
about
actually
options.
makes more sense to do a pilot for
Yeah.
because it's too big to do the whole time.
There are not a lot of
anyway.
examples.
No one's gonna let
We-
you
Yeah,
do that.
It's not gonna work at that scale.
Yeah, we
Right.
can't afford to do it. Okay.
Well, I think, yeah, and I think we could, it really makes more sense in the village anyway, so.
But we don't
Yeah.
have the numbers, so if it was included as a line in the bid, they would give us numbers.
So, all right, so it's food.
So
for
it's,
thought.
yeah, but I still have other concerns.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that's to do with brush, is I'd like to encourage our hauler contractor to just pick up brush and not require bagging and stringing and cutting and all that other stuff that everybody hates. And if we just say, I'd like to remove that paragraph, just you tell us what you need to do, but if you can pick it up without all that crap, please do.
Everyone else manages to, the village
Yeah.
comes and.
Village is
cleans it up.
different. Don't even
Well,
compare.
I'll make a comment on that. I have seen all the debris out by the road, and if the windstorm comes or the rain, then those beautiful piles of leaves that everyone has raked out there are all over the neighbor's lawn. And they can't fit, so,
So I think the biggest challenge that they have with brush is they want it 3-foot bundles.
Yeah.
It's the handling of it. They have the
Right.
guys who actually pick the garbage up, use a packer, so you only have about a 6-foot area to throw the stuff into. So, and I can tell you from past history, people, when they bring brush to the street, it may be a huge pile. If there's no restriction to it, meaning for those guys, they could be there for days trying to get on the street.
But you know, Rob, I've known them not to pick up if it doesn't.
If it doesn't meet their requirements or doesn't meet the restrictions that they have,
Right.
They won't pick it up.
Right.
Certainly, you know, you do have a private contractor come in and do whatever. But I think that's originally why when they took over their contract, for the brush contract, that there had to be some sort of restrictions on it. Because you had people that were actually clearing lots and putting it all out
Yeah.
front.
Yes, there's no rules, you just.
So there was no rules, and when you look at like some of the villages, obviously they're small enough, they're picked up with a 4-in-1 bucket, those types of
So,
things.
but isn't it more, like, is our bid telling them the rules we want? Can't they just tell us what rules they, is that what?
That's what I'm asking for, is they tell us what they can use, is it, I've got a claw truck, I can come and take a branch,
This is how much it costs.
and this is how much it's gonna cost you, and then we can say, it's worth it, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But we're not even giving them the chance to tell us they could do that.
Yeah, and they're just replying to the RFP,
Yeah.
like they're not trying to come in with.
And I'd like to see more creativity, I mean, at least in the brush side, I mean, I'm okay with it,
Well, that can be addressed to them and introduced,
but not with this, but bid is
not
so
with this bid,
specific.
but at some point, I mean, I guess this would have been nice to know a month ago.
Well, we mentioned all of these things and before, we mentioned all of
We've
it.
been talking about it.
This, yeah.
Mm.
It's my fault. I didn't get around to it until very recently to get the.
So we mentioned,
I'm happy to blame Tim for this.
Yeah, she was blaming me for
Yeah,
that.
right, we did talk about these things.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to go ahead and.
so I can tinker with it, but I can't tinker with it by tomorrow, so I
Right.
just.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so, but how about the brush is not as, you want to do them both at the same
Well, you have
time?
to
We usually
right,
do.
right,
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wait for 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right,
Okay,
then
we'll
we'll
wait for 2 weeks.
revisit and try to get the,
And I think we can,
Yeah.
maybe we do an addendum to see if they have a composting
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
to submit it, and if they don't.
Yeah,
Might
I
as
can
well.
ask the Okra people if they have staff language or
Yeah,
anything too.
okay.
They have it.
so we'll,
The
at
other
the
thing-
next meeting, then, go ahead.
Too, for the trash, I would like to see how much is it different when they do the automated.
Yes, yeah, I think
That's
that,
in there, right?
I think that's in there, the
No,
automatic.
I don't think we put that.
No, when I discussed that, our was to leave it up to the hauler, because not everyone has that
Oh, right.
capability. So if
Yeah,
a hauler
yeah.
has that capability, they will offer that as.
Okay,
Yeah, there was that option.
okay.
Thank you.
What they've done.
It's been 5 years since we.
Yeah, but those are much more, they're happening more and more places now, because of the workers' comp that they saved the hauler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually paid for.
So that'll be on the 25th then.
So can we agree that we need to get in requests to the bid by Thursday night, Friday night? Is there some, like, I
So
think
we send it to you?
Send them to me, yes.
Yeah.
Send it to you.
Yeah, send me any comments or
This Thursday.
changes.
I think this Thursday, that gives us all.
Yeah.
Is tomorrow enough to talk
But
about
not,
that?
I need the weekend. I can't.
No, next Thursday's fine.
Okay, next Thursday.
I mean, if we're gonna push this off for 2 weeks, yes, get me your comments within the next
So,
week or
okay.
so.
Next week, yeah, we'll see.
Because I don't know if somebody will return the, yeah, that's good. Timing-wise. Okay, so
That's
that's,
the time.
So
Revised
they
bid.
love this.
Sarah, you don't have anything on your plate, come on,
Right.
that's fine. All right, very good. So we'll hold that up until the next meeting. All right,
So do we need to change the date from September 22nd to the one
No, we're
after?
not even-
no.
We're not setting any dates.
No, dates.
We're-
We're
We're
delayed.
gonna delay the.
Are we
bidding process.
tabling it?
No, we're just gonna, we're putting it on the agenda in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Holding it over.
So we're not putting any notices in the bid.
Yeah, right.
No
No,
notices,
for
yeah.
2 weeks.
Right. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to, Robbie, been so quiet over here.
I'm usually pretty quiet
What do
unless
you
I'm
have?
spending money, right? So, yeah, but
Have anything for us?
just a reminder to everyone, our residents, obviously the weather in July kind of put us behind as far as our paving projects for the summer, but the last couple of weeks, we've actually had some good weather and we've been catching up pretty well. So unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we're already over halfway through our construction season.
Yeah.
So we had a little incident with one of our subcontractors here last week, and one of our flagmen got hit. It wasn't a town employee, but it was a employee, so.
On Woodchuck?
No, actually, it was on Woodchuck. It was actually a real fair, but again, you know, the employee of the contractor is okay, so, but it's just a reminder that what we do out there, that people would slow down these
Yeah,
construction
that's
zones,
scary.
certainly would make our job a lot.
Was the driver ticketed?
I don't know the particulars on it, they didn't really get into
I think what it comes down to is it's 30
It
seconds.
was,
so
it was
you
an
don't
older,
get
it
the
was an
guy.
older lady.
Yeah.
And, it was, like I said, you just gotta be aware of construction zones, so, that's huge for us, so.
And they're young kids out there too, that fly.
Yep, a lot of young people
Yeah,
out there, and
they're learning.
we all wanna go home at night, that's. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But, other than that, we'll keep moving forward.
Yeah, you got a lot of paving in there, that's for sure. A lot of approved.
As you can see, the abstract.
POs there, yeah. All right, Tim, you're up, sir. Nothing tonight, okay. Allison, you've been quiet over there too.
I don't have anything tonight unless you want to talk about.
Oh,
Equipment?
you want?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can tie that in since you're not
Yeah.
here, John. Go ahead.
Even tonight, especially with coming back with masks, there are requests from people who are attending virtually that they can't hear.
Yeah,
And so basically at this time, I have this balance between you will either be really hot in this room and we'll turn all the AC off. And then even still, sometimes people can't hear. Or, it's kind of that balancing act, right? So I would like to request that we invest a little bit in some of our equipment in order to facilitate the hybrid meetings. I spoke with John about it, and I'll turn it over to him because I just know I want stuff, but he knows what the stuff is, so.
So right off the bat, this is still not the town's owl.
right.
So
right.
we are gonna, if everyone's cool with it, I believe we have the funds figured out.
I don't.
Well, we will,
That's
it
the
just
question.
sounds,
I don't.
okay.
No.
So either way, because the other thing we can do is consider using the ARPA funds.
Yeah,
I mean, this money is exactly for this, to be more resilient in the future. I know I have to run it past Association of Towns and we probably need to discuss it, but that's what we would be looking at. So in the short term, getting another owl so that the town has one, that will bridge the gaps that we always have a camera that can see the whole room. And in the meantime, they can work together to increase audio quality. So the mic will
With
be.
mics,
No,
mics.
that, there'll be two of those. And eventually, but there'll be two owls in the short term.
Oh, all right.
That will maybe double the sound quality. Let's say that it's due
But
to.
would you turn the camera off on one of them so you're not seeing double
It
vision?
has a whole built-in routine. That's one of the major selling features is that you can pair them. And then I still have the quotes I got
For the
earlier
microphone.
this year when we were looking at kind of doing a more permanent and more professional. And with the ARPA funds, that was the major issue, is we had set aside about 10,000, and that was just shy of an appropriate amount.
Right.
So if everyone is interested, if we're planning on spending ARPA funds on this, I can go back to them and say, hey, last time we gave you this budget, and it was a perfectly acceptable solution. It was gonna be a number of mics. That being said, if we have the funds to spend, the correct microphones would essentially be a piece of equipment right here that would have a long mic.
Like the school board.
Like the
Exactly.
school board ones,
They have
yeah.
good ones.
They
And
all
so
had mics and
I
everything.
just used one at one of the state public hearings. I was sitting next to somebody and the mics worked just fine. Everybody got heard. The sound quality was amazing in the recording. And basically what that would look like is we would have at least 7, probably 9, maybe even do 11 with 2 of them over so that we could put in different spots, whether it's on the podium, whether it's over there. And basically that would all, very similar to how the old mic system worked, where they were all bundled together. Those mics would all run, we would obviously look at a wireless solution that's significantly more flexible and could allow for different formats. But it would either be a wireless solution or be a wired solution, where all those mics would have a cable that comes together and would likely run into that cabinet back over there. And we would have a setup that would work with Zoom, directly with Zoom. Because that's what we were pitching. Because that's what the plan was to just plug right into Zoom, and that's not an issue. That being said, I think the perfect solution is probably going to be in the $25,000 range. But again, we do have the $2 million for arguably this express purpose.
Well, first we have one. we'll get the other one.
Absolutely.
Next
But I
year.
do think, you know, as far as how this money is
Yeah.
meant to be spent, this is a knockout.
Yeah.
It's such a real quality of life improvement for everybody who's paying attention to these meetings to hear us a little bit better. And I know when you speak into these mics with a mask, there's no
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah, it's
You
just
can
not-
speak as quietly as you want. We don't have to direct people to speak at the machine, so.
Yeah, John, I've been putting together a few items. Actually, I received some information where there's actually some of the ARPA funds that can be used for anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm still researching that, getting the information association in towns. This is one more thing I can.
Absolutely,
Reach out
yeah,
to
maybe
them.
I'll put the information together and you can.
That would be great, yeah.
Yeah, that way we can get an answer pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But
Can I, oh, please.
well, I just want to know, is anyone like opposed to the idea of spending the funds that way?
No.
I just don't want to go through, I mean, we left these, the companies that gave us quotes a little high and dry. But I do want to go back to them and tell them there's money now.
Oh, we got our budget we'll be discussing in a few minutes too, so if we can keep something outside.
That's what I, yeah. And it is, and it really is a one-time,
Yes.
like this is a solution.
And
It's
it
gonna be
is a
fun.
resiliency issue.
What's that?
It's a resiliency issue. It's totally
Exactly.
related to the
And
pandemic.
we had
Yes,
a
right,
ton,
that's
we had
right.
a ton of feedback from folks, which again, thank you to everybody. Even if you tell me that sound quality is garbage, good, that's really good feedback.
Yeah.
Because this is so important, especially as we look with the Delta variant, all the things that are happening, it's essential that we can stay connected with folks.
But I think even if there was no external threat, we have learned that people like to do the
Yes.
virtual meeting.
Yeah.
And we will be continuing to do virtual meetings.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so then.
I think that makes it a good long-term
The
investment.
plan will be in the short term. I'll figure out how we can, if we can use ARPA funds, and I'll work with you to figure out, I don't know. I mean, I don't
To
know.
be clear, when I was asking for money, I was asking to spend the American Rescue Plan. I was not indicating that there was. And I got in trouble for that.
Yeah, I got in trouble the first time around. don't forget.
Give me that look you got.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, we will move forward to ideally have a second owl for the next meeting or any other board meetings that come up in the meantime. And then I will engage those companies again for another quote. I'll probably bring them back in so they can see the new configuration.
Right, okay.
And I will basically tell them, give us the wireless and the wired options. That way we have price points that we can work with.
Yep.
And I'm very hopeful that it'll night and day between.
Well,
these
let's,
supporting
That'd be great.
let's find out.
Can I
You
ask
had another
about our ARPA funding, the county opportunity to apply? So we have the town's portion, but we have an opportunity to apply. And I had sent a memo to everyone, including funds for our pilot program for food waste disposal, like a real short one, a real small one to kind of get us going. Not the salt shed.
Well, the thing is, we're
Um,
looking at economic development.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
oh,
so-
no, there was a
And then
specific,
there's another one you were saying.
yeah, anyway, I just want to circle back, but I'd love to get some feedback from you all on
Okay.
that, and I don't want us to miss the opportunity to apply.
Right, all right, yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Chief, you're up.
Our 3 police officers in the academy are doing well so far. Our 2 new civilian employees are also doing well. And we're still working with that school district on filling the SPO vacancy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, out of the 3 applicants, 2 withdrew the application.
Oh.
So we really only get one
One
candidate for 2 open positions.
Okay, that's
How
it.
does that work?
Doesn't.
Yeah, that's hard math.
Right.
Chief, do you want to give any update on from the police perspective, the fire to that this morning?
Yeah, from what I know now, it appears to be accidental. There were a number of people that were displaced. Fortunately, we deal with those things every so often. My understanding that the fire department did a great job knocking it down as quickly as possible. Try to work with the community members to try to get those folks as much as possible. We'll have some updates on cause and origin hasn't come out with an exact cause or origin.
Yeah.
Well, they think it's accidental, so it's way up some fun.
I know that.
Heather, I think that, there's some things people can do if they want to help.
Yes, so I want to thank everybody who was, asking around and getting engaged. John and I went to the site and it is just bad. And it traveled along the roof, which was really, really crazy to see. So the fire
bounced
department.
over to the other building too.
Yeah.
Two buildings.
Yeah, and so there are over like 35 people who are displaced, and I learned firsthand about how the Red Cross works in these situations, right? And so they set up at FM High School, and it's only a few days that they will be providing shelter support and that emergency support. So as a community, I hope we'll follow along the journey that folks are going to be going on to get themselves back on track and housed and clothed and all the rest of it. The Y has been extremely gracious and without any hesitation, offered to all of the displaced people access to all their facilities, including the showers and just a space to be. And people can drop off items that you imagine are most practical for this at this time. People are all ages, but there are some, just a few young people ranging in ages of 12 and under. Things, but I think the problem that I've learned today is that you can't easily, as a municipality, take any money to support folks.
Yeah.
So an individual faith group or something could start a GoFundMe, but I don't have clarity as a town board member how that could be responsibly overseen. And we can't actually get involved in managing that.
Right.
So Catholic Charities and the Salvation Army have been really good partners with the Red Cross over the years, of course. So if people in the community want to reach out, if they're watching this and they know really well how to sort of take it from there with the Red Cross. And I just can't say enough about our amazing school liaisons and the social workers that work with the Red Cross, but also our school social work team. They're amazing school liaisons, like Meredith Cronenberg. Anyway, more to come with that, but just.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get together a good, list of all the different places that are taking donations.
Yep.
But I think right now, I know there's one at the UPS store, I think in Fayetteville.
Yeah, Karen, did you want to share?
Yes, the fire department has taken the initiative, and there are several drop boxes around for
Yeah.
donations.
Is the town able to share that out on its social media?
Yeah, we're gonna
Different-
try to get that out through social media.
Is the town, back to Heather's point, like, is the town able to share if there's donations? Like if Catholic Charities has something set up to make a monetary
Yeah,
donation?
we can share that's where you,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
okay.
think as long as we're not doing the asking.
as long as we're not doing
okay,
it, yeah,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, so we should definitely.
I think some of the feedback we got too is the essentials. So, all of the things to repopulate a home will be down the line, but right now it's those essential goods. So I think shoes are an issue, toiletries are a huge thing. So if you're looking to donate and help, focus on the things that, if you didn't have a place to stay for 3 days.
Yeah.
What would you need right off the bat?
Yeah, imagine you got your door pounded on at 5 a.m. and you could only just walk out of your bedroom, right? So that phone chargers, all those things.
My brother was the Onondaga County investigator, well, he's been that for decades, but anyway, he was one of the first I've seen this morning. He could not say enough about our police department, the help that he received from them and the fire department. He's worked with several different municipalities over the years, and just said the town of Manlius is wonderful, well-trained. I said that it was so nice to hear and good to share.
And Heather, you mentioned the credit response committee in one of your emails,
Right.
and that is really what we've been doing for a long time now.
Well, he said it
And
was
it's
top
great,
notch.
I mean, it was 12, I spoke with the mayor this morning, just see how everything was going, there were 12 apartments. He explained, as you did, the chief, that it looked like it was accidental, but didn't know all the details yet. But the Red Cross, when we have these critical response committee drills, but it's usually a town-wide thing where you have the schools involved, you have fire departments, you have the DPWs, you have the highway, you have everybody, this was isolated, which made it, I mean, it was terrible, but it was isolated, you know, so it was one municipality along with, I think there were 12 fire.
Fire
Yeah.
departments, yeah.
13 fire
fire
departments, you know,
departments there.
It
so-
was shocking this morning to see.
So I think our town is second to none when it comes to handling this type
Yeah,
of thing.
and credit to Sergeant Hutter and Officer Sparks are two people that were just
Oh.
so responsive today. Thank you to them.
But, yeah, thanks for addressing that, so. All right, Ann, you're next, town manager.
Just that Allison and I developed the budget calendar for this.
Oh, yes,
fall.
right here.
Got
Have
that.
you got that?
We'll be meeting with department heads the week of August 23rd.
Yep.
So it's coming up quickly. Have our evening meetings to meet with department heads and the entire board.
Yeah, did Kay send the email out yet with the dates for everybody? She did already, okay. I know we went through them, so. Good.
Dan, I just sent you a note of a week I'm out of town.
A week ago.
I am out of town from the 26th to the 1st.
Oh, all right,
The girls and I are going to Florida for my nephew's birthday party
all right.
and to go to Disney World.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's, okay, we'll figure that one out. We'll work right in. We'll get something taken care of there. All right.
Is that overlapping with the workshop or anything like that?
It doesn't appear.
No, the workshop is in September.
Good deal. Oh. All right, next, just as committee reports, I didn't know if anybody,
We have one for comprehensive planning.
oh, okay, is that, who's
Yeah.
taking it?
So, so the comprehensive plan steering committee did meet for our first meet. We had our first meeting.
Oh,
So
Yeah,
that was,
which I couldn't make.
yeah, that was really exciting. We had great participation. It was recorded. There was a couple people who couldn't come and it is recorded for them.
Okay,
Allison took good minutes. The PowerPoint is on, coming to our site.
Coming soon.
Coming soon to our site. So the information is available for anybody who wants to follow along. We're planning a meeting, which I haven't told anybody about, but there will be a communication from me that there's a meeting next Tuesday at 6 o'clock here for the focus group co-leads to get some orientation on what their role is. The focus groups will take place during September. The steering committee is meeting again October 14th. And with the focus groups will report out to the steering committee on what they've found in terms of their areas. So that's sort of the schedule over the next several weeks of what we'll be doing. Then after the 14th, there'll be sort of another set of plans and I can report back on those.
Well, we have a link within the PowerPoint to the summary of the survey on the comprehensive plan site, because I think that's important for the.
Yeah,
people
and
to
there's
digest.
actually, based on the input from the discussion that we had at the steering committee, the summary of the survey has been refined. So there's a new summary of the survey already that specifies a little bit more distinction between the villages and the town, because that was some of the
Yeah.
confusion that people had in their responses. So,
Right.
so
Do you,
that will be.
do you remember that people took the survey? So we have some survey results.
So all of that will be packaged up and will be available on, we have a couple of different media for conversation. We have our website, we have the civil space, and the steering committee will have their own internal communication process. So the civil space will be the community-based information, and anybody interested in following this will be able to interact with the data through the civil space. Whereas in the agenda center, it's just two-way. Like this is an interactive tool, which will be called something.
You talking about civil space?
Yeah.
It'll just be it'll be a link out, so.
Yeah,
civil
it'll be,
space-
yeah, just a link to a completely
Okay,
separate site.
so if you click comprehensive planning on the website, you can get to
There'll
civil
be
space.
another.
Okay.
So,
That will take a couple weeks.
yeah, so
It's not set up yet? Oh.
So it's not set up. So reassure people, if you go to the button that says comprehensive planning, that's what we have now.
So, and that's the best place to go.
Right.
Always.
Yep. And we
So
have
always
an
go there.
email address too.
And yeah, and if we communicate with you, we're gonna communicate with you through a new email address that says comprehensive planning at Town of Manlius.
Nice.
So you'll always know. So that's sort of the preliminary stuff. We'll work on more preliminary stuff and in September, this stuff should be available and easily followable by residents who are not on the steering committee but want to follow what's going on.
And if you ever want to send out, we have a list, the comprehensive plan list. If you want to send out a mail, like a mailer or an email to that list, send me content, we can give that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. Supervisors next. We're not going to go for another hour because I'm all done. I don't have anything for you tonight. We covered a lot of ground this evening. So we need a motion to
I'll make
adjourn.
a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, thank you, everyone.
I almost made it to the end of the meeting.
You were
before I
doing
got
well.
to say, I was like, I'm